Welcome to Ed's Mysterious Collection with your host, Eddie Guevara. Anyway, guys, everybody remembers 1960s. When I'm saying everybody, anybody who's my age or older will remember the craze of 1960s, the end of 1960s, when Universal Monsters hit the stands through AURORA, and AURORA introduced the Monster Collection, and Famous Monsters was born, and all the other monster magazines. Well, among them, when AURORA first introduced the AURORA Monsters, when I first came across one in 1969, my favorite was the Dracula box. Dracula, I would hear the box and I really didn't know what was inside, but for $1.50, I sure wanted to buy and find out. I finally convinced my grandmother by telling her I needed a school project that I was going to do, and she didn't really question why the $1.50 or why a Dracula was, so she just bought it for me. I took it home to create a student project that I never really intended, but I needed to get the AURORA Monster Box. But anyway, guys, this is what I have in front of me. There's one original here, and the rest are actually reproductions that have been bought up. Some of my original AURORAs will appear as I go through my collection. In fact, I've been going through my collection as I have moved my storage the last couple of months to uncover things I have no idea I even had. Of course, I also found out that half of the stuff was put into different boxes at different times. See, this box here has model kits. Doesn't have them in any particular order, but we're going to review what I have found in order to make the review exciting and quick. We don't want to spend here forever talking about model kits. The first section that I have here are the Robbie the Robot and Lost in Space Robot. Now, as a kid watching Lost in Space with Will Robinson, that was the best. What kid in the 1970s didn't want to grow up to go to the moon? What kid did not want to be an astronaut? Of course, that you go to the moon if you're an astronaut and have his very own laser pistol. And better yet, you needed to have your own robot. Because of that, I became a fanatic for robots. And watching Lost in Space, which was my all-time favorite, I always wanted a laser gun. It caused me to always order the plans. Not always order, but it caused me to order the plans on how to build your very own working laser pistol. Laser pistol from Johnson Smith. If you look at the laser pistol plans, it shows a laser gun that resembles very much the Lost in Space gun that Will Robinson would carry around. So anyway, guys, everybody knows that Robbie the Robot appeared in The Invisible Boy and Forbidden Planet. But the most popular that I remember as a kid, the first introduction I had to Robbie the Robot was in Lost in Space, when he played a bad robot, and it was called the Robot Toy. Will Robinson found him among some weeds, and they told him do not, and the robot said, warning, warning. The B9 robot is called the B9. It's actually the one from Lost in Space, which is right here with Johnson Smith here. Here's the model kit by Polar Lights. This kit is an actual reproduction from the AURORA model kit. It sells for several $100s if you have that. So the B9 finds the Robbie the Robot, which is right here. And when he finds Robbie the Robot, he fixes him. Will Robinson fixes him, and apparently at the end they fight. I would take my feet and put him on top of the sofa when the fight was about to take place because it scared me. And because of that, I always had a slight respect for Robbie the Robot that I feared. I don't know why, but it was kind of funny. I mean, a little kid has a very wild imagination. But anyway, here you go. You have the Lost in Space. Now, I had most of this kit's original. I never did have an actual Robbie the Robot or the Lost in Space original AURORA one. I did buy it when Polar Lights came out, but when I was a kid, the only original AURORAs that I had were the Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Wolfman, and Dracula. I also had the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I think that's all of the original kits I had. I did have all the kits from MPC for Pirates of the Caribbean, and I had all the kits except for one from the Haunted Mansion MPC line. They all had the SAP action. The one particular kit that I didn't have, I think, was Play It Again Sam, which I did obtain now with the remakes, but I didn't have an original on that. And when the fire went through, it left me with two Haunted Mansion, and I believe 3 of the Pirates of the Caribbean original ones. The rest were lost in a fire, unfortunately. I do have me with pictures with them, I think, before the fire, but unfortunately I did lose a lot in that fire. So guys, here we have, now the Robbie the Robot was introduced into 2 different boxes. You have the one here, which is kind of like a chrome, all chrome special edition. If I this one's actually opened up. I think I can show you inside very carefully. There you go, see? This is the all chrome version of the Robbie. I don't want to tip it over because everything is going to fly out. And also this kit, when they made it, they also made it with, now I don't know if this was I don't believe Aurora had where you can make it into either the robot toy from Lost in Space or the Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet, where you can change the front plate. But this kit's both, which I believe is just the same thing. It's just that this one's sealed, so the only difference between the 2 is just the color of the box. And I personally kind of like the black one better. But anyway, here we have the robots, and then here we have the original Lost in Space, but again, Polar Lights, not the Aurora version. And this one here is just a robot. And here you have B9. A lot of people don't realize B9 is what they call the Lost in Space robot. And here is the Lost in Space robot with Zachary Smith. Now, a lot of people also realize that the B9 robot, there's a whole club on how to build it. There's people that have been building their own versions for years. I almost one time dished out $24,000 for one, and I'm sure my wife would have probably put me in an early grave, but that didn't happen. But anyway, I didn't want to die that young, so I think I let that go. So I'm going to put these to the side here. Now over here, this is an original monogram. This is actually, as you can see, the box, fire caused it to, wrap a little. I guess water kind of came on, but it's still sealed. It's in really good condition. I don't think any water went inside, but as you can see, it's an original Superman. And there are different versions of this box I've seen. But anyway, this is the Superman model kit. And I have here another Superman model kit by Revell, also the original here. And you have the Robin and Batman, which I have in somewhere else. But when I said original, this is a Revell. So I believe this is either a remake or... This is a 1999, so this is definitely a remake of the original Aurora one, okay? Revell, Polar Lights, a lot of those companies have remade the original Aurora model kits. And there's some companies today that they're still making original Aurora. They've made the King Kong with the glow-in-the-dark head. They made... My favorite old time was the Forgotten Prisoner of Castlemare. He's #1. You can't beat him. The artwork on the box is phenomenal. I think it's one of the best. And I also have one that I do have an original, but I think mine is actually built up. It's the Head Chopper, the guillotine guy that was sold for 95 cents in Back of Famous Monsters. Today, one of the most expensive model kits that people would never have thought was the Bride of Frankenstein. I guess because nobody wanted to buy it back then. So that's a very expensive Aurora model. I do have an original Bride built up, though. I don't have it in the box, but I have it built up. And one particular kit that was super rare, which I do have an original. My original box is open, though. And I think the instructions are, this was the Big Frankie. Now, the Big Frankie was finally remade. I think it's Polar Lights that did it back in 2000 something. And there was a model kit store that was going out of business. They were selling for like $150. And I was able to get a really, really deep discount. I got like 5 kits of those sealed. And I also I was able to, believe it or not, well, before I get to that particular, this one here, the Monsters living room scene from Aurora. It's called the Monsters living room scene. And Polar Lights finally reproduced it back in 2000, whatever, early 2000s. This kit, before they reproduced it, was selling for like $1,400, the original Aurora. I never had the original Aurora, but I came Big Lots one time for some reason. it was kind of fun. It was selling them for $5 about 10, 15 years ago. And I bought like 10 of them. I bought all the ones they had, but it's a beautiful kit. If you ever put one together and you see it airbrushed professionally, it's really nice. A friend of mine has one. I have all the kits. I've never paid anybody to put one together. The only time I ever actually took an original Aurora, because my favorite Aurora kit of all time was the Dracula Square Box Edition with the glow-in-the-dark parts. I have one that's sealed. I have one that's open. I have one that's built up. In fact, I have two that are built up. Original Aurora Draculas. One of them, I had somebody professionally airbrush it. And I keep that in a special glass box. That's my favorite. Frankenstein, great, but the Aurora Dracula, I love Frankenstein for everything else. But the Dracula's got to be still my favorite kit because it reminded me of the Bela Lugosi from Abbott and Costello, and I got to tell you, you can't beat that scene. And last but not least, not last, but I'm saying in the, in fact, before I get to that one, let me get to, I have here the oldest, again, a reproduction from the Aurora. You have the Catwoman, the Riddler, and very interesting. The Riddler is one of my favorite because I do like the design of it. But now I don't believe the original Aurora box looks like this. I don't recall right now at this moment for this review. My collection is so vast that my biggest thing that I liked the most were mail order items and novelties. So Aurora Monsters just came in secondhand, and most of these items I obtained later on in life as I was older because it kind of was sold in my childhood. Not that when I was a child, the one that I was really introduced to were the monster ones. And those are the ones that I bought. So those are the ones that I treasure the most. This ones were I found later on, but here you have Robin. Of course, I know the artwork for this one is definitely not the artwork from the Aurora because I do remember my Aurora box and not my Aurora box. I think Polar Lights is the one that, this is Mobius. Put it out before Mobius did. And the artwork, I think Mobius just did a whole totally new artwork on it. It's really nice. It's phenomenal. But here you have Mobius too, and here you have the Joker. Now everybody knows Cesar Romero. You can't beat Cesar Romero and the Joker. And a lot of people don't realize that the Joker came from an original film called The Man Who Laughs. And I think the idea of the Joker was developed from that particular film. That was a silent film in the early 1920s. It's a funny film though, even if you look at it, The Man Who Laughs, and you can see the same smile as, which Cesar Romero here, he's probably the best Joker ever. And, I like him the most because, when you look at the Batman series, you see it was made towards kids and, there was a pow and then the pow would be in the air, and if they went to cross the street, Robin would say, "Hey, Batman, make sure you look both ways." But it was still a phenomenal series, and everybody loves it. Even today, I like watching it. What I did find out that was kind of interesting was the Superman himself, the one with George Reeves, which is my favorite, I think was geared more towards adults a little bit because today, when you look at it, you as an adult, you kind of can relate to it the same as if you were a kid. But I think it was meant more for a more mature audience for some reason. And Superman is great. I'm telling you, whoever hasn't watched the original series or you used to like watching it, you got to do it, man. You got to go out there. You got to watch it because the original series, Batman George Reeves, is probably the best. I don't think, a lot of people like the Allen one that was prior to George Reeves, but I got to tell you, that Allen one, first of all, you could tell he was too skinny for his outfit. He was wearing all this muscle stuff. And then when he flew, you see him flying on a stick. I don't like that. I like the cartoons. The cartoons are phenomenal. They have robots and they're really cool. But, I recommend the George Reeves. And if besides anybody who has an autograph from George Reeves, if you looked it up on eBay, they're going for as much as $10,000. So George Reeves, in my opinion, was the best Superman. Is still the only Superman. And like a lot of people say, look, they've tried to reproduce the Superman movie a million times. The last movie that came out was horrendous. I don't like it. I hated it. where Superman punches a guy and goes through 10 cars. Okay, that's too much. I like the first Superman with Christopher Reeves, which had the same name as George Reeves. And a lot of people don't realize there's 3 famous Reeves. There's Steve Reeves, the famous Hercules. He's the best Hercules ever. George Reeves, the one from the 1950s. And then in the 1970s or 80s, when the first movie of Superman came out, George Reeves. Now, the first movie is phenomenal. I think they killed the ending where he makes the earth turn backwards. That's the only thing that killed the movie, but the movie's still, in my opinion, the best Superman they've made. In my opinion. Everybody can think different. Batman has several good movies. Batman Begins, Batman whatever. I hate The Dark Knight. It's more about the Joker and stuff than Batman. I really hate that movie. I know a lot of people think I'm wrong. My son yells at me. I don't like The Dark Knight. I never did. I love Batman Begins. I love Christian Bale as the best Batman, I think. And I think he does a phenomenal job. I like them. Spider-Man also has made great movies. The first Spider-Man, the second, they've been phenomenal. Superman, they still need to work on that because they do a Superman movie that's good, but then at the end of the day, they make him too CGI. They make him punch somebody, goes through 10 cars. Oh, I mean, you kidding me? It's too fictitious, in my opinion. So I don't like the new Superman at all. I think it was called the Man of Steel. I love Superman. He's my favorite character. But at the same time, I don't like the new movies. And now I left this one for last. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Elvira is a phenomenal person. I've met her like at least 10 times in my life. She signs quite a few autographs for me. I have an airbrush model that's about 18 inches tall where she signed it in silver. She's got the prettiest signature, I think, out there of any autograph. And one thing I'm going to tell you about Elvira, she's also super hot, guys. This model kit I got here is one of the stuff that I do have. I do have all her new books, and anybody who's met Elvira will see what a wonderful person she is. And anyway, guys, this box needs her signature. That's my next thing I need to do, I guess. Having said that, thank you again for another wonderful review. Goodbye.
All you cool ghouls and friendly fiends to the House of the Unusual. Join the maestro of mail order mysteries, Eddie Guevara, and Joe Pavlasky from Crypt of Classics as they take you on a journey of magic, mystery, and vintage pop culture. With them is world-renowned horror magician Chuck Caputo and his exclusive line of horror magic kits, only available here. Join in the weekly podcast and hear from industry-leading guests and collectors alike. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for amazing videos. If that weren't enough, visit houseoftheunusual.com and connect on the free forum.